We got you now.
Maybe. Get quiet
Is this
all of a
on
sudden.
Zoom?
It will be.
I put a Zoom. That's why we don't tell anybody.
Well, you wouldn't,
show up.
you wouldn't be able to participate, but you'd be able
I
to
traveled
watch.
so far to get here, Hannah.
Okay, I just want to apologize for any facial expressions that you may see. It's not personal.
We have a tendency to make them mad, just saying.
I don't want to. So when I start going, no. I don't like going to meetings in person.
Today, we should have my gavel.
Am I on? Yeah. I know.
Wait, you get gavel?
There's a gavel. Yeah, don't slam that. They get unruly. Yeah.
Oh,
Go for a back. I know this one. I see. I only use it if necessary.
Jeez.
Don't put that next to her. Just saying.
All right. I say we,
So the town.
I don't think you need one of those. All right, call this meeting of the Budget Committee, April 18th, 2024 to order. It is 6:02 p.m. First order of business is to approve the minutes from the last meeting. Has everyone had a chance to review those?
I make a motion that we approve the minutes as emailed.
All right. Second? Second, all right, all in favor? And maybe since we have some members of the public here tonight, we should do introductions. So we'll start with our wonderful secretary.
I am Emily Clarity, member of the Budget Committee, occasional secretary.
I am Gerald Knight, member of the Budget Committee, Vice Chair.
All right. Ed O'Brien, Budget Committee Chair.
Lori Knight.
Joan Holmes, Budget Committee.
Yeah, John Williams, Budget Committee.
Sam Stopak, Budget Committee.
All right, well, it has been a heck of a budget season with lots of meetings, and I guess this is kind of the final meeting where we offer our recommendations on the municipal budget and town and school budget. The school committee and the select board have already given their recommendations. So that's what we'll be doing tonight after we hear from all of you. So I guess I would ask if now for public comment on the budget process.
I'm just looking at this, for the first time,
Mhm.
so just a couple quick thoughts. The way this reads, it almost looks as though the school committee voted by each article, when I believe they just voted on the entire budget, yes or no. And
No, we voted on the articles.
but it's a poll, correct?
No, we went line by line at the last meeting.
Oh. My apologies.
I was on Zoom.
I was on Zoom too.
Yeah.
I don't know how I missed that. My apologies. I thought it was just a yes or a no.
If that was okay, sorry, I totally just answered.
No, thank you.
I appreciate
Sorry.
that. No, don't.
We will not be answering questions, so we just want to hear from you. So there's someone there who knows the answer? Yeah.
Speak from the floor, go to the podium, how do you?
So you know what would you like, or you keep them for?
Hi, I'm Stacy Farah, longtime resident of the town of Lincolnville, and I'm here this evening to express my concerns with the school budget increase. From 22 to 23 to 23 and 24, the school budget was an increase of approximately $240,000. This year, we're looking at an increase of over $600,000 at 19.4%. To me, that is a lot of money for the town of Lincolnville. And I apologize that I didn't attend the school board meetings. I will be watching them, and I will be present at some of those next year, but I did just want to express my concern that the taxpayers cannot handle 19.4%. It would have been my hope that maybe some of these things could have been done gradually. There are some increases in some budgets, the guidance budget and some things that are almost double. So that's my concern, 19.4% over 600,000 in 1 year budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments?
Oh, Hannah, I'll stay here though, if that's okay. been to most of the meetings via Zoom. So obviously, sometimes I miss things because my dogs are barking or whatnot. But, and I work at the school as well. But my opinion is definitely more as a taxpayer. I am not in favor of the school budget increases. I'm actually gonna piggyback on what Stacy said, the guidance budget. I definitely am in favor of an LCSW at the Lincolnville Central School. But as our guidance person is retiring, I feel like some of that work could be absorbed elsewhere. And I mean, to be honest, it's pretty much every single part of this budget I would make a change to. Or have questions about, like, for example, I'm an ed tech. I know a couple of them, and maybe somebody can answer this, I bet they can, so please feel free. I know we have some grants that cover ed tech salaries, and I didn't know if that was included in this budget, or if we're not getting those. I know we have one grant for about 30,000 for pre-K, but I was pretty sure we had 2 other people under grants as well. I don't know if that's still, it does seem that it's in the budget to pay them, but that we also get grants to cover them. If you know, please.
That's illegal, we can't do that.
What do you mean?
It's not legal to put the people in the budget and then pay for them out of the grant. We're supposed to supplant with those grants, not completely,
Not budget with them.
not budget with those grants. So
Oh, I see. Okay, so we
They are
do get
not
grants to
included.
cover,
the
but
grants
it's not
cover
included in the, okay. So what happens to that extra at the end after it all flushes out? Is that part of what we vote for to have the surplus go to? If there's a surplus at the end of the year? Like if we do end up getting grants to cover ed tech salaries?
we know about the grants ahead of time, so those are not included in.
She's saying they lowered the budget because of the grants.
Oh, all right.
Is what that says.
Unless I'm,
But it's
Well, it seems, then that
high.
number seems really high. I mean, I know what I make and I don't make this divided by under the special ed. But the ed techs are in 2 different places. They're under regular instruction. I believe there are 2 ed techs under regular instruction, and then the remainder are under special ed instruction. And if I'm dividing that by 7, which I think I would be, or 8 because it's 1 extra in there, it doesn't seem like it makes sense. And this is not the first time I brought this up, by the way. I just don't want to make it seem as though I'm coming late with questions about the budget. I have asked these questions before.
I have it saved on my phone, so.
Well, we're not gonna make comments about it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I forgot one thing. Article 16, which is authorizes a transfer to the facility reserve fund. I have some concerns where we do not have an audit, that we're bringing a number to the voters we're not bringing a number to the voter. We're bringing an article to the voter to allow all the funds to go from the unassigned fund balance that's left to be expended to the facility reserve fund by a vote of the school committee when we don't even know a number. That number could be 50,000, that number could be 500,000. I am not comfortable with not having a number in that question. So that's my other comment, thank you.
Don't mind having a comment if that's okay. So I will say we have at the school, so I'm the school committee chair, Tracy O'Brien, had many meetings where we have literally gone line by line to flush out what is it that we truly could do at a later time that we need to do now. We did realize that there was a lot with higher budgets, that the line items were not where they should have been. The majority of this budget increase is truly having transparency over what we are actually spending now versus in years past, where we were kind of moving stuff around. And I feel like that was some of the initial sticker shock for us as a school committee, because as a school committee, there was not one person that was like, hey, let's just ask the town for $6 million for our school. And so the first iteration was a much higher number, and so every meeting, and I'm happy to hear that if someone wants to go watch the recordings, that was purpose of recording all these meetings, was for that transparency, for people to be able to see what is it that we're asking for. There is not any intent for padding the budget so that we would have an overage.
no one
And I know that's not
suggested
what
you're
you're
padding the
No,
budget.
I know, but I just want to kind of put that out there, that was part of the discussion too, was some of the select board and budget committee had joined some of the meetings to be able to say, like, what can we do as a committee to do better in the future, to say, as we have things break down, what are we gonna do for that contingency fund, instead of having to do well, if we have extra money at the end of the budget, let's have it roll over. And we acknowledge the audit has been a struggle. My understanding is there's not any expectation that there's gonna be any money trouble. I don't receive like a large amount of money. And as a citizen, I also wouldn't wanna be just saying like, oh, let's over budget by 600,000 to be able to have 600,000 out of it for us to spend either. And again, I don't think that's what anybody's saying, but there was so much work that went into this budget to be able to say what is gonna meet our students' needs that doesn't leave us being reactionary. This school year has been extremely difficult for our principal to figure out budgeting, because everything was so under budgeted that we're running out of money. And so we're at the point of some months where I'm like, are we gonna have to go to have a special meeting for the town so that we can ask for more money just to cover expenses that our boiler is breaking down, the speaker system is still not working. So there's just, I guess, a lot to it, and I maybe am more speaking kind of from the sense of we spent so many hours looking at this that it's not likely that we're saying this is where we've landed on as a budget. All 5 of us did unanimously agree on it, but it was a lot of discussion about, do we actually need this right now or not? Do we need these ed techs right now? Do we need this guidance counselor right now? Do we need these special services for our kids in needs? Because it seems like the writing is on the wall that our kids are only gonna have more and more needs, not less needs. And we didn't want to be caught being reactionary to, oh, now our kids need this, what are we gonna do? We have no money to do anything about it, so we'll wing it. So that, I guess that's just kind of
Yeah.
my,
And actually, this is a great question, where are we after the year? Are we running out of money?
we're still on budget right now.
Like, I mean, I believe I heard 41% a couple weeks ago, is that?
I can look again, but the last time that I saw it was essentially right at budget of where we should be at. Sorry.
Kern?
Kern Lake, a longtime resident of the town of Lakeville, also the vice chair of the select board. I'm here as a taxpayer tonight. To your comment of being reactionary, it seems like because of a different style of funds management over the last 8 to 10 years, we've come to be reactionary instead of proactive. I looked at your budget. I too am not happy about it, and I don't know how I can straight face that to a taxpayer. As a matter of fact, I can't. I would think, first and foremost, we need to maintain and preserve our infrastructure before we go after extra programs and we need this and we need that, because if we don't have the infrastructure, kids are going to have to be bused out of town. I've been involved with 2 school systems here, and I am not going to get behind another one. We need to maintain this school. I don't see line items in your budget for long-term maintenance. I don't see any of that. That is a huge mistake, It's a snowball effect, and it will only get worse. My recommendation is that you go back to work. Start with what you had last year. Plug in these things that we need, and then say, this is what your principal should do. Give it to you, and then you tell him what we can do and what we can't. That's my personal opinion. It's not gospel. I am not a brain surgeon, and I have told everybody that. Everybody knows that. Our taxpayers cannot afford this. There is no way. I think we need to go back to the drawing board. People need help, they need to ask for it. I can't for the life of me figure out why that audit isn't done. We have sat and met about that in years gone by. I can't pass a budget on anymore without that number. Period. How can I straight face a taxpayer? You? How can I? I can't do it. I was elected to safely manage the townspeople's money. It's not the right way. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Can I say something?
I don't think we're making comments at this time.
Okay.
I think that was the plan, we're here to hear from the public, we can discuss afterwards. Other comments? All right.
But I just want to say, I don't think the school committee did anything. I think there's just some concerns about, let's build on what the operating costs are, what the union contract costs are, what we need to run the school that hasn't been run properly, maybe for this year, for this next year. But let's not add staff at this time if we're just trying to correct what's currently happening. Make that whole and then worry about those next steps. But I appreciate all your work, I've done it. I'm not on the school board, but I've been in budgets for 25 years. I don't think that you guys are doing, I think you did what you needed to do to make that school run, but I think unfortunately, we can't handle that amount of money this year. So, thank you.
All right. Seeing no other public comments, we will move on to our recommendations, and we will start with the school budget. So, I think this has been a really tough process, and certainly it's a pretty huge increase. I've been part of the meetings, I've gone over the budget many times, not always those meetings, but because I have some access to it, seeing where things are at, seeing where things are being added. See a lot of things are being added that we don't have a lot of control over as well. That's a really important thing about school budgets is most of it is state regulations, and I think we generally look at stuff that isn't regulated. And I think also our responsibility too to the taxpayers is to make sure we continue to have the school that many of us in the room grew up in as a locally controlled school, and also the fact that our school is known for being a really, really good local school, and people move here in search of that school. So it certainly is an asset to the town, but it's a huge part of the budget, and so we have to look really seriously our work tonight and making our recommendations now at the school. And to look as closely at the municipal budget as well, which the select board has done over, because these are our taxpayer dollars, and that's our responsibility as budget committee is to make our recommendations, even when they're different from that of the select board or the school board. We're sort of checking that way. So when the town goes to the town meeting and they look at the recommendations, they say, well, select board recommend this, the budget committee recommended don't pass this or recommended this amount. That's part of our job is kind of check to the other bigger organizations here that really do the really, really hard work. Just check everything. So I propose we start with Article 1, which is the town of Lakeville should be authorized to expend a total of $1,820,634.66 for regular instruction. The school committee has voted in favor, 5-0. So if you guys have your question from me, break it down. This is pre-K program, regular instruction, gifted talent program. And special ed within that? No, special is separate, right? So I'll entertain a motion and then we can have discussion. So in this case, what someone would do is move to approve that total amount, or a different amount. I feel like it should be a different amount. You could say, vote we authorize $10 million for construction. And then we have discussion after a second, then we have discussion about that.
Well, I move to approve Article 1 as written.
Okay, do we have a second? All right, approved, second. Discussion on regular instruction.
Yeah, I'd just like to say that, so I sat in a few meetings where the school committee and the principal, he was presenting his budget, and he got tough questions from you guys, I remember, especially in the second meeting, and you pushed back on him, and, he was trying to defend everything he could. So I saw your interactions, and then I missed another meeting, I think, after that, because somebody rear-ended me on I-95. So, anyway, I sat through these meetings, line item by line item, discussed, and I can't go back on, I thought that looked reasonable when you really dig into it, item by item, and so I'm in favor of this. I already sat through all the details.
Okay. Then, shall we vote? All in favor? Approving? Any opposed? Okay, unanimous. All right, Article 2. Shall the town of Lincolnville be authorized to expend the amount of $1,130,225.30 for special education? School committee voted 5-0 in favor. I will entertain a motion.
I move to approve Article 2 as written.
And second.
I'll second.
Okay. Discussion of the special ed budget.
To be honest, it's very difficult breaking this down piece by piece, so.
Fair enough, it
Kind
is.
of going along as we are. This is one of the spots where we saw the largest amount of increase. This is a tough one because you always look at special education as you want to do everything that you can, but you have to do it to the best of your ability. And with the drastic increase in this budget, I think it may be out of our ability as a taxpayer to fund this big of a chunk on special education. Right now, we're making it happen. I was at the school budget committee. Maybe not glamorously, but it is happening, and we know everything's going up a little bit, and everything does. But this is a drastic increase. It's just tough for me to swallow that number, that's all.
Are we allowed to ask Tracy to make any comment, or Kate,
Sure.
when we bring them in to our discussion? Can you remind me, I know special ed is mandated by the state. There was some extra unmandated expenses, like, is this where the social worker would come in? Is there still a social worker in the
The
budget?
social worker is still in the budget. Let me just double check. No, social worker is in student and staff support, which is
Okay.
a later article. This does include the increase for special ed tech for the program to support the program that that's already in place, but that needs more staff to keep our kids in their school. But then most of the drivers are out of our control, and that is an $80,000 seed money, which we owe the state, which is taken off of our subsidy, regular contractual increases, and some of the pieces, as Tracy pointed out, were not reflective of actual costs, so now they are. Likely out-of-district tuition, so those big tickets increased in transportation for students, that's reflective of what we're actually scraping together right now. And then there's a reduction in the special education position, director position from the central. So that's what that was reflective of.
So the thought I have on this is, looking at the main thing that sounds like we have a lot of power over whether we approve any other ed tech. I look at that tuition to other schools. Another place in the budget, there's the transportation to other schools, to tuition our kids out. And I think about, two of the probably most vulnerable things in this budget that I see are that additional ed tech and that clinical social worker. We've got more the social work side and my thoughts on that, but we're a K-8 school. Kids who are tuitioned out are kids, pre-K, sorry, pre-K school. Keep forgetting the pre-K.
We all do that.
We would have been in kindergarten back when I started, so.
Same.
We know. We don't need a kindergarten here. So we have the opportunity to identify kids with needs in pre-K. And I know the teachers in pre-K, K1 and 2, and they're an amazing group of teachers and ed techs that work with these kids. Identifying these kids at that age and identifying the issues. No secret, I work in the mental health field for my career. I know what early intervention means. And my kind of behind this guy hope, and I share this, I know with Principal Bennett, who's spoken of this, is that we identify those kids early on, we get them the services they need early on. We don't tuition them out to some other school when they're in 6th grade because we can't manage their behaviors. We work with them, we work with the families. That's what community education is about, and unfortunately mental health services I think are a part of that, and the social ed tech. That's just my thought on that. As far as it relates to this particular line item, it sounds like there's not a lot we can do with this, but I'm willing to entertain other thoughts, discussion on this issue.
So my question would be around the program ed tech wages. I mean, we're looking at going up just shy of $100,000. That's more than one ed tech, I'm assuming. Okay.
No, it's one ed tech reflected, that that's more than ed tech salary, yes.
So what's the difference? Why is 100,000?
Well, 80,000 is that seed money.
Okay.
Can you
That's
explain?
a different line item.
Oh,
We're looking at
yeah.
line item
It's
2.
99,000
for an ed
tech. Thank you, I was, yeah.
There's salary increases included in that too, though, like the ed techs all get salary increases
Yeah,
in
well,
addition to
I'm-
having
Yeah,
a.
but we're not getting 10,000 apiece, so that's gotta be something. I mean, I like that.
But you're adding, like too much discussions here, but we're adding
Sorry.
healthcare costs. I mean, my sense is this ed tech.
No, this doesn't include.
Excuse me.
Sorry.
I like to see Kate, my son's assumption is this ed tech is getting hired at the same rate as the other ed techs.
Yes.
Okay. And I don't want to get in the weeds of this because we've certainly discussed in previous school board meetings what that's all about, where the money comes from.
So, I mean, this is where a lot of my questions are coming in. This is obviously the biggest jump that we're seeing. We're looking at a variance of, $313,000. That we're adding $313,000, and that seems steep. I'm gonna be honest. That seems very steep to me, and it's something that I personally don't think I could get.
So I guess the question would be, because again, so much of this stuff we don't have control over, this we can't, it's mandated to fund it. The one thing I think it seems that we do have control over, and this item is the cost of a ed tech. If we were to remove that one ed tech, how much would that budget be reduced by? And I guess I'll point to you, Kate.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, we were trying to look at the, Kayla had given us something here too.
Ed, when they're done, can they just explain what the seed money means? What that means? Thank you.
I'm not gonna do as good a job as Justin. The seed money is money the state pays out for our kids in out-of-district placements for their services, OT, PT, speech, and then they ask us for that money back.
So they pay it up front and we have to pay it back.
Exactly, and it depends, it varies depending on the kiddos that are out and the needs that they have.
So it could be 30 we owe them. We
Yeah,
don't,
but it's 80, we know that.
you
now.
know it's 80.
Yes.
So what if we had 10 kids this year and 5 kids next year, it's still 80? I mean, that should be that should be a set amount, it should be.
No, well, it might be 2 years past, although don't quote me, I'm not sure, but a lot of times special ed is.
Okay, so we're paying for money that was spent
was already
2 budgets
spent,
ago.
Right, yeah.
And my understanding is it's service dependent, so if you had a kid who requires speech therapy 5 days a week,
Right.
we pay for that.
But we're paying a bill that's passed, but,
Yes.
so we're not guessing on an amount, we're
Yeah,
guessing on a bill that we've
it's
already
money
got.
we owe.
Okay.
Co-pays.
Yep,
Right,
thank
I
you.
just think of it. Big co-pays. So I was wondering if we know a rough estimate of how much that ed tech would add to the budget. If we were to remove that ed tech, what would the budget be then?
Justin has the new ed techs budgeted at 34,000.
And that would be, so if we didn't hire a ed tech, we would be reduced 34,000 from this line item?
Ostensibly.
Do you wanna see it? They wanna see it? I don't know if that helps them, but.
Yeah,
Because
I
my
guess this is
question
the question
is-
about the 32.
If you look at the teacher's
There, it's
salaries and the
90 or
increases they get in
91,000,
different line
so
items, but yet it
Should this
seems like it's being
29,000,
added
this
into this as
35,000 be
well.
in there if it's covered
Is it
with more
teachers?
entitlement?
Because they're special ed teachers
They weren't
and
last
ed
year,
techs
they
are
were
also
good.
But they
teacher
have
teachers.
them listed separately.
Yes, those are special ed teachers. They're in a different line item, they're teachers. Like, special ed teachers still teachers, but they're not included in regular instruction, they're included in
Well, I
special
know, but they just said 35,000 was the new ed tech.
That's what I think we're trying to figure out the answer to that right now.
60 grand different.
She's.
While we're doing that, I've been to every one of the meetings about the school budget. And this particular line item, I feel like we ask every time numerous questions about, and we still have numerous questions about that.
Which part? The
I
whole-
guess the whole increase amount. So I'm concerned we're voting on something where we still have many questions in regards to this item.
Because I think if you go down through, you can pretty much tell which things are required versus which aren't. And I think one of the things that's not required is additional ed tech. And teachers, course reimbursements, unemployment, medical leave, employment, for training, communications, travel expense, instructional supplies, audiovisual, legal fees, equipment, furniture. And I'm not seeing anything in here, I'm sure you can get $200 if you want to pay for new equipment maybe, but I don't see a lot in here that is things we can really negotiate. These are contracted.
My question would be is, are we really shorting our special ed today by $313,000? That's my question, and I don't see where we're shorting our special education program currently $313,000. I know that there's a new program that's trying to be put into place, which adds a lot of money to this. Maybe this year isn't the time to look at a new program. We're looking at a substantial increase.
What new program are you talking about?
To build out the room and have,
Oh, the 10 grand for the
Yeah.
quiet room, is
But
that?
that's not, I don't even have it in this
That's not
part.
this part, no.
Right.
It's in another.
That's what I'm saying, I don't think there's much in this part that we can do much with, other than the other additional ed tech.
But why was there not that large of an increase previous years? I guess that's what without having the detailed budget, because that's the other thing, is the detailed budget had a lot of additional items that were called out, but I don't know if they were in this particular section or not. It just doesn't make sense to me that we have the ed tech, which is 35 grand, and this seed money that we're paying that was not budgeted last year. Or not enough. So if it wasn't increasing last year by the difference, has to be an inflated number somewhere.
Or a typo.
I'd be very, very surprised if there's an inflated number or a typo in this budget, considering how much scrutiny this budget's come under. More than I've ever seen in my 18 years of budget committee, I've never seen as much scrutiny as went into the school budget this year. I can't quote that, but I'm just saying that would be very surprising to me. It's gone over pretty closely. But I don't know, Kate, do you have?
Justin is saying he used exactly the whole spreadsheet that you.
Yeah, oh, this is the 329 budget. 329.24 on top.
Well, it's also last year's budget year, so
It is this year's budget. Yeah,
that's the head start.
that was the
Stacey,
one.
did you have a comment?
I get your point, Ed, but when you look under special programs, ed tech wages, it's 57.2%. That's not one ed tech.
Okay, that's what the answer we're trying to get. That's
Yeah,
what
no,
we're-
I'm
okay,
just,
so,
yeah, and increases, right? So that 80,000 is not in there, yeah.
the 8,000 different place.
Yeah, in another place, yeah.
And the health insurance is also.
Okay, we're gonna shut the public comment and ask if we've asked.
I think what they come down to is there were two lines that that maybe shouldn't be in there that are, yeah.
I take it back.
Can I speak
Thank you, you're
again?
bad guys.
Am I allowed to speak again? or-
No. Don't even use it anymore.
The number in question, if it helps any, would be 65, about 65,000.
So if
For
we
two
were
of
to,
our ed techs that,
so if we were to defund that line, you're reducing this by 65,000. That's my understanding. Is that your understanding, as the committee? Because we'd be reducing by one, I'm just going with the theory that we reduce by one ed tech, which is the additional added to this budget here.
Again, I'm concerned that this is the third presentation of this that we've had, that there's been errors potentially in. Whatever number we come up with, I'm concerned that it's not an accurate number.
Maybe I'm being a little forward here, sorry if I am, but if we're being asked to vote on a number that is now incorrect, I can't vote yes on that number.
Any thought from the school committee?
I don't have the information about the local and time, and I'm sorry, I had no idea this was gonna come up, so Justin said he did exactly what Paul did last year. Kayla said Paul backed those numbers out. If Justin wasn't aware of that, I could be wrong.
So seeing as this we have in front of us, we have the option right now of voting on it as is, or if someone wants to propose a different number, we can do that. Or a zero number, we have that option as well.
Do we have an option to just, like you're kind of saying, go over the whole, this one article, to go back into detail, instead of just arbitrarily one of us saying another number?
Well,
Just
I think,
study it
yeah.
Another time and with the school committee and just.
Well, unfortunately, the select board votes on this on Monday, so we cannot get this done. That's why we had all those meetings. So I will entertain if someone wants to put an additional number in there, or if we want to go to a vote.
Can I ask one
Yeah.
more thing? Okay, suppose we vote this Article 2 down, okay? And suppose in the town meeting, everybody votes it down, right? It goes down. Then what happens next? Because you have to fund special education in one way or another. We have to. State rules, right? So then everyone has to go back, the school committee has to go back and come up with another Article 2, and then what do we have, another town meeting just for Article 2? Is that what would happen?
Dave, you want to try that one?
Dave?
we're definitely not looking at me on that one.
Potentially, John, more likely, in my simple world, if there was a disagreement on the number, or the school committee's already voted 5 in favor of this, and let's say the budget committee voted 2 in favor and 5 of you opposed, somebody at town meeting is gonna be asked the question of why the budget committee, and the explanation could be, well, there was some disagreement on the actual number that it needed to be when we did our public hearing and made our recommendations. And hopefully somebody at town meeting would have what the real number, or a different number, a correct number, and would make a motion to approve Article 2 at, some other number. And then that would ripple forward for the other articles.
David, is this the open town meeting question?
Yes, all of these,
Okay.
just for everybody's knowledge, I probably shouldn't jump into the middle of this meeting, but why not? On May 16th, 6 o'clock in the Lincolnville Central School, this warrant we'll elect a moderator, and then it'll be an open town meeting, so that these questions will be Article 1, Article 2, be taken care of by the voters that are there and present. And then on June 11th, Election Day, you'll have one question on your ballot along with the candidate elections that says something on the order of, do you wish to approve what was approved at the latest budget meeting, which will be all the numbers that were done on May 16th.
And one other question, Dave.
Yeah.
When we vote on this, you don't have to actually propose a number, we can just say we vote against it, we don't approve.
Correct. The way this has been formatted the last several years,
I'm thinking about it back a few years.
says school committee votes 5-0 in favor, And I just recorded for Article 1 that the Budget Committee recommended 7-0 in favor. And if you wanted to, the motion was to approve that number. If you voted 0, 7 of you, we just recorded as 0 in favor.
Okay.
7.
Then I would say, unless they have other, if someone wants to throw something else, I think we just vote approve or not. So the motion is on the table, it's been seconded. So all in favor of recommending the amount of $1,138,225.30 for special education? All in favor? And all opposed? So one of the things historically we've done in these cases too is exactly what Dave said, is sort of bring attention to something that the numbers don't seem right, or just we question it. It doesn't necessarily mean that we personally, how we personally feel about it, but I think a lot of times we've been to check. In which case, I think unless I feel really strongly, I think it's, I'm glad we voted unanimously on that, unanimously. So, on the second one. And I guess we gotta vote on this. Downtown Lincoln will be authorized to spend $0 for career and technical education. Let's get those pre-K kids working, come on, guys.
I'll make a motion to approve that, can I do that right now?
You feel good with that, don't
I
you?
feel good about that.
I'll second that. Any discussion? All in favor? All right, unanimous. And shall the county be authorized to spend the amount of $52,625.50 for other instruction? Other instruction. That's athletics. Transportation for activities, field trips, soccer team. I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion that we approve or in favor of the other.
Second?
Second.
All right. Any discussion on that one? I just know that as a parent of kids going through the Lincoln schools, I mean, the amount of varied trips and activities they do has been really great for their instruction and just their general exposure to things. So, glad our school supports that. All in favor? All right. Going on to Article 5. Shall the town of Lincolnville be authorized to expend $532,265.17 for student and staff support? That was a good one. And this is what the social worker is, correct? I'll entertain a motion.
Well, I move to approve Article 5 as written.
And a second?
Second.
All right. And discussion.
A little bit of a discussion.
I do afterward too.
You've had your time. But we'll see, maybe.
Maybe.
They're gonna make me come to every one
The
now.
idea was this, you guys had plenty of time to discuss it, but we'll get to it. Yes.
Guidance salary, is a very huge increase, and I know there was talk of adding an additional person to the school. My question is the actual need to that. I also know that we pay for, I believe, psychology consult, so I guess I would question whether that is something that we absolutely have to have, or if that's something we would like to have, yeah. I get it, and there's a lot of problems out there, the kids have a lot of problems. I just don't know if we're gonna be able to solve them by adding a body. Home problems are gonna be home problems, it's nice to have somebody to talk to. To me, that's a guidance counselor. That's a large chunk of money, and I just question the absolute need of it.
My comment to that would be, this is part of our school reaching where all the other schools are. Canada Rocker Middle School has three social positions, and at least that many in guidance, I don't know for sure. Guidance and clinical social are very different roles. A guidance counselor is a licensed counselor with more of an educational degree, and something, correct me if I'm wrong, Kate, but my sense is they focus more on learning disabilities. They certainly do some guidance work with kids, but they're not as much on the psychological component of it. Where social or clinical social worker, which I am a licensed clinical social worker, we're mental health focused. My experience, I have a meeting set up next week with Canada Rocker Middle School with their guidance teacher and a social worker to work on a difficult case. They are imperative in my job when I work with children in the school systems, and I'm more likely to go to the social worker, the guidance counselor, just because they know my language. They're part of my field. The other schools in this area have social workers. Hope and Appleton have social workers. We have not. I don't know why. I've certainly been an issue I've had for years. It's something we probably should have had years and years ago. I can't speak to the reasons why. I definitely understand this. With the budget the way it is right now, with all this stuff going on, can we afford to add, this person, which I think is incredibly necessary and needed? But I also can see what you have all said, and what we all feel is, look at this budget. I would not just say something nice to have. I would say something imperative to have. And I think it's ridiculous it's not required by the state or something, because it's a needed thing, especially in a K-8 school, and back to the earlier point about early intervention. A guidance counselor is not a social worker, nor vice versa. A guidance counselor and a social worker are, especially in a pre-K through 8 school, is so important. That's my 2 cents. Other comments on the budget committee?
Yeah, so you mentioned Hope and Appleton, they have a social worker. Is that the fellow that's a former parole officer? I met a guy who's a former.
Scared straight.
Is that I was sitting at a table at the
Well,
town
it's
meeting.
the same person in both schools.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's sheriff. Yeah.
I don't know him to be a former parole officer.
Okay, well, that's my memory is what he told me. Anyway, I was real impressed with him. The second point, which I had mentioned at like your first workshop, was when I was on the school committee in the past, there was this big mess, a bad day or two at LCS with some kids misbehaving, and tell me now if I'm misremembering, throwing furniture, going in the library, clearing books out of the shelves. Do I remember this correctly? Okay, so that's really impressed me. People have guns. Kids who are misbehaving that way, how much of a step is it before they get a gun? We cannot take guns away from anybody. We can only try to maybe get a social worker to be involved with the kids, to get involved with their families, to get to know them, to evaluate how big of a danger they are, to raise flags if necessary. That's our only line of defense. Now, I think against a real tragedy, that's why I support this social worker role. Yeah.
I'm not a professional profiler, my wife actually is, but she's not here. So shooters are the gifted and talented, smart kids that are quiet and bullied. The kids that act out like that, they have problems, but they're not dangerous. They're dangerous to themselves maybe, and they're disruptive, which is not good, but they're not the shooters.
Okay.
The shooters are the quiet, smart kids
Okay.
that are bullied, and they come back with guns. That's the shooter.
So,
Not the ones that throw chairs are not gonna shoot anyone.
Okay.
They're happy throwing chairs.
I think we're all getting outside our area of expertise right
Well,
now.
I'm just saying.
I don't think this has to do with the budget.
Yeah, I think
question,
we'll
That-
bring
that's
that
good.
back in, but I will, unless other discussions
Well,
here.
Hold on, I wasn't quite done. So, again, a social worker who's knowing what you know, that's good.
Yeah,
Follow these kids.
yeah.
Yeah, that's really
Well,
good.
that's exactly the person that spots these kids early on. And
Yeah.
I've talked to parents who are like, they had this for the social worker in the elementary school, they saw the kid and helped the kid or not. But I wanna talk enough about that.
Okay.
Anything else you wanna add? Yes.
One thing, I mean, so we want to add a social worker, but we're also increasing the psychological services up to $20,000.
So psychological services are.
Stepping on each other and just.
No, that's a mandated part of special ed, correct?
Yes.
So what they do is they do testing, I believe, for gifted talents as well, but for special ed services, for IEPs.
Mostly special ed and some BCBA consulting.
Right, so it's not someone in the school working as a therapist in the school, they do testing. And they're required, correct?
Oh, yeah, testing's required, yeah.
I will allow one member of the public, brief comment.
I mean, getting slammed for trying to be a participant.
Well, we generally, public comment time is over.
Can you clarify that these are both full-time positions?
Yes.
Okay. So my only response to that would be is if we have a Hope and Appleton shared services, do we need both the guidance counselor and this new position to be full-time positions? Could we cut back the guidance number of hours and this new position both be part-time and to make that happen?
I actually think, and again, we're kind of past that now, I think that's a really good idea, especially if it doesn't pass this year in the future. Because I think guidance, you need a full-time guidance, we've always had one. But I know Hope and Appleton have a half-time. You might be having your time finding a half-time social worker than you're gonna have finding, because clinical social workers work privately.
Right, shared
so
services.
That's, I think it's a good question, it's just, I think it's sort of beyond
Would
scope
be
right now.
A good
But
option.
I'm glad you brought that up. And I think that'd be a good one for the school board here. All right, we discuss this?
I mean, may I?
No, I guess we're not allowed to, so.
It is, we do public comment for a reason, I think very lax, you know, you can't have a lot of public
All right.
comments.
Well, I would like to say, since it got brought up, I was involved in both of the situations that particular day. So I would just like to say that there was no fear of anybody getting anything but a share, and I had a lot of ducking, plant pot here, there. But as an ed tech, you know, that's part of the job, duck and cover. But I honestly, I truly, really want an LCSW at the school. I feel like somebody with that kind of training would be such a great, unbelievable resource for our school. But since we're under a budget problem, I personally think we should take a beat on hiring the guidance person until we get an LCSW on board, see what kind of program they want to run, they get to know our kids. You know, I've asked a lot of questions about guidance because I don't necessarily understand everything. That happens, but the one thing I did ask was how many kids is this school guidance teacher seeing right now? And I never really, and it's none of my business, I know this is none of my business, but if we're voting on it, how many kids?
Are you talking about the guidance counselor or the social worker?
School, I think we need an LCSW badly, but I also don't wanna say, I don't wanna go and come here and say, we don't need a guidance person.
I think that both are budgeted here.
Right, I think I would rather take a beat on replacing the guidance person until we get an LCSW on board, since
But I'm saying that's required, it's not an
Yeah, I think,
option.
yes, exactly.
I don't know, is it required to have a guidance?
But I hear your point, I wanna keep moving with this though, I think we discussed this, Jeff, I think we should go on with the vote at this point, let's hear something from the budget committee. All in favor of the amount for Article 5? And all opposed? You abstaining?
Wait, you gotta have me.
I would ask for all in favor of.
I'm in favor.
You're in favor, okay, and all opposed? Okay. So that's that, just one? Yeah, one in favor.
Okay.
Okay, moving on to Article 6. Shall the town will be authorized to expend $218,867.60 for system administration? And that's our superintendent's office, et cetera. Entertain a motion?
Questions?
No, first we need a motion.
I'll make a motion
Okay, or what?
that we we vote on it.
The amount written?
I make a motion, let's see, $218,867.60.
All right, second?
Second?
Okay. Yes, discussion.
Secretary's wages went up quite a bit, and I know there was some talk about adding an additional part-time secretary.
Is that this part? That's the school administration.
Is that?
We're in system administration, which is,
Oh, gosh.
superintendent's office, which is, I think we're obligated,
All right,
we need superintendent.
then I don't have a question on that.
All right, seeing no more discussion, shall I vote? All in favor? All right, now it's your time, school administration. Shall the town of Lakeville, Article 7, shall the town of Lakeville be authorized to expend $289,056.79 for school administration? Entertained motion?
I messed up, so I'm not doing it.
All right, I move we approve the amount as written. Have a second?
Second?
All right. And I believe, yes, this is where the additional support of the
I
secretary.
have a question.
Yep.
Just let you know.
Secretary, I know there was talk of adding it. I guess the question is, do we absolutely have to? Again, I'm looking at numbers.
That's another one of those, do you want me to answer?
She'd like
That's another one of those things that we've talked about for years. You have 220 kids, you have lots and lots of paperwork to get managed and making sure student records are the way they should be and communication with the community. I think, we have a newsletter that only goes out once a month right now, right?
I think mainly the biggest thing was trying to keep up with the parents calling saying, hey, my kid's going here, or hey, my kid's going there. Keeping track of who's supposed to be where, bus slips, bus notes, and then the administrative piece of it. What does Justin need help in terms of
That's
so,
a question.
so,
You can ask the question of the school committee.
All right, so I am gonna put you on the spot, and I apologize beforehand, so is that not getting done now?
I believe that Justin is doing some of that work himself, yes.
And,
Oh, then our ed tech's helping.
yeah, there's some ed techs helping and.
It's outsourced.
My experience has been going into that school is it's been chaos, probably, not chaos in the sense control chaos, but there's a lot going on in that office. And it's one secretary there, and usually it's not just her, because usually there are ed techs or random other people. Like, I assume there's somebody else working in the office, because there's always somebody else in the office doing something. But if that's kind of other areas where we're budgeting specifically for ed techs to do ed tech work, not to do secretary work, we prepare principal to be a principal, not to do, bus slips.
And where we have 80 extra students in Lincolnville, both Hope and Appleton have one and some additional office staff. It's a lot.
So the other schools have more office staff and with less kids, 80 less
And you
kids.
have 80 more kids.
So a comment, not directly related, but for the future, I'm on the 5-town CSD just for the 1 year here. And they just implemented a electronic system on the buses, so they know where all their kids are all the time, right? They scan in,
Mhm.
and so it's all automated. So there's a way to spend more money next year. But it's a good system, I think, it attracts the kids. So you don't want to hear that, nobody wants to hear that.
We're gonna put an air tag on all of them.
I think your tag's a good idea.
$30.
So yeah, I guess I don't know if we want any more discussion on this issue, some of the increase right there is with that additional funds. Let's vote, all in favor? All right, opposed? 5-2, that's just split. All right, moving on to Article 8, shall the town of Lakeville be authorized to expend $84,460 for transportation and buses? School board committee, school committee votes 5-0 in favor. Any motion?
Yeah, I move to approve Article 8 as written.
Second,
Second.
discussion?
Yeah, I have a discussion, just a brief thing. I've heard at almost every school budget meeting that I went to or watched online about furnaces. About how, you know, the boiler at the school may need some maintenance, but I don't see that put into the budget. That's one of the.
That would be.
We're not there yet.
We're not there yet.
Transport.
Jump ahead again, transportation.
I'll table that for now.
It's okay, we'll get to it.
This is
I
why I don't
promise.
like the piecemeal.
All right, I mean, it's transportation, kind of what it is.
It's contract at this point.
Yep.
Not much you can do.
All in favor? Opposed, all right, yes. And now, moving on to Article 9, shall the town of Lakeville be authorized to expend $408,876.32 for facilities maintenance? Entertain a motion?
Well, I move to approve Article 9.
All right, second? I'll second. Discussion.
Sure, I have a question. Now, my understanding is there's two boilers, furnaces at the school, one doesn't work correctly, you're running off the second one. And I asked at the last school budget committee why that wasn't in the budget itself. To me, that sounds like something that is not a nice to have, it's a need to have. Is there a reason we're not budgeting for the need to have maintenance such as a school boiler? I mean, that's kind of important in the winter. That would be my question.
My understanding is there's no reason to think the one that's not or it is working now would be failing. And it is a moment of, is this Russian roulette? Where do we need the resources the most? There's no reason to think that the current would fail, but I guess that's also kind of if you're walking down the stairs, are you expecting to fall and break your leg? Probably not either. So I don't,
It's a backup boiler.
that's part of it, yeah.
So the backup boiler is broken, not the main one.
Right, that's my understanding.
And I think it also comes down to what was stated, I think, very clearly in the beginning of this meeting, that this is a huge increase. There's a lot of money being on the table here, and things have to be cut places. So, yes, if we have a working boiler, it'd be nice to have a backup. But maybe I think that's a question, whether that's a nice to have or a necessary. I think most of the stuff that's on the budget I feel is necessary, but I don't know if we can approve a budget as written for this group, so. Other discussion?
Do most schools have backup boilers that are operational? Is that what the traditional thing in the state? I don't know.
The other ones don't. Lakeville has 3 boilers. One does something and then one's a backup and this one.
I mean, my concern with this obviously is, you know, it's February and the primary boiler goes out and we're gonna be here, you know, here at the town, we need money for a boiler today. There's a reason why we have a backup, right? Doesn't do us any good to have a backup boiler that isn't a backup. So that would be my only question. I mean, to me, that should be an absolute need to have. I'd rather have that than a part-time secretary, I'll be honest.
All right, other discussion?
Yeah, so are you, Gerald, are you proposing we put money in, we add money on to get a backup?
It would be very tough to add money when you don't even know what it needs, you know, I mean.
I know.
I'm not a proponent of just throwing money at something.
Yeah.
That's something that, you know, we would have to have a number on.
Yeah, so if it breaks, if the main one breaks and there's no backup, all of a sudden, everyone needs babysitting for their kids and they have to stay home from work and it's this big calamity, just like in the pandemic. Yeah.
I think I would also go to the fact that the other schools don't have one, you know, it sounds like it's pretty common. I mean, it sounds like it'd be great if we could do it, but if the other schools are running just fine without one, yeah, I mean, you could have a major storm and we could, you know, a roof could collapse.
You not?
Reality is, things can happen.
Here's the doomsday prepper.
Stay like bunkers.
But they did also mention during the last presentation of this budget that we're approximately 12% under budget. So maybe they can save the money to care for the boiler if something happens with that.
And did I hear something about there being a new plan for contingency in future budgets?
So, I mean, I will say what was really nice about this budget cycle for me was the fact that everybody did come to it. And the committee is looking at, like, what is our 5-year plan that we need to be looking at? Initially, Justin had asked for money to have like a facilities director as part of the budget to be able to say who can actually look at what is happening with the maintenance of our school, because as wonderful as our principal is, he's not a mechanic, he's not an electrician, he's not. So we're trying to figure out, like, well, we need to do this 5-year plan. There wasn't the capacity for us to have that done during this budget cycle, but that is what I would like for our committee to start doing, so that by the time the next budget cycle comes around, we can have a solid answer of what is it that we need at our facilities to be able to have part of maintenance. What do we expect will start breaking down, because we're coming up on the end of our debt, or getting the school paid off of our debt financing, so. Usually once you get things paid off, they start breaking.
All right, well, thank you.
Sorry, I'm saying it again, sorry.
Take a mortgage out.
I know.
All right, I feel like we're ready to vote on this one. One more? Okay. All in favor? Okay, all opposed? All right, 4-3. Going on to Article 10. Shall the town will be authorized to expend $334,235.22 for debt service and other commitments?
Yay.
The budget committee votes 5-0 in favor.
I make a motion that we approve the debt services for $334,235.22, seeing we don't have much choice.
I'll second that.
So I just want to clarify, and I think I've asked this before, but this amount of money is largely paid for by the state, is
Yeah.
that true? Okay, so we may as well pass it.
You don't have an option, it's debt payment.
Yeah, it's a debt payment, yeah. And it's not out of our pocket, so.
All right, all in favor? All right, unanimous. And Article 11, shall the town league will be authorized to spend $50,550.74 for all other expenditures?
I move to approve Article 11.
All right, I'll second that. Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? All right. So Article 12, so the town league will appropriate $3,411,890.50 for the total cost of funding public education pre-K grade 3 as described in the Essential Programs and Services Funding Act. The Charlotte Town League will raise $2,552,550.57 as the town's contribution to the total cost of funding public education from pre-K to grade 8 as described in the Essential Programs and Services Funding Act according to the main revised statutes, Title 20A, Section 15688.
Could you say that?
Nope.
Can I explain what that is?
Yes,
These are
please.
confusing. That money, that 3.4 million, is the sum of the subsidy that the state is giving us and the, what's called local allocation, which is what the town of Lincolnville has to pay in order to get the subsidy from the state. So that $2.5 million number is the number that the state says Lincolnville should allocate in order to get your funding.
That is based on the overall budget, is that correct?
It's what we get to start with. It's based on what the state
Right on.
thinks.
Yeah.
Basic education, not including special ed and other things would cost.
And it has nothing to do with the numbers that you already approved, it's a total
Correct.
separate.
All right. Ready to vote? All in favor? Anonymous, yes. Article 13, this is a written ballot, so, oh, you can recommend. Shall the town of Lakeville raise and appropriate $1,817,100.87 in additional local funds which exceeds the state essential program services allocation model by $1,766,550.13. I think this is kind of a big one, whether we approve or disapprove the amount as written, seeing as we have already, not approved some of the things on here.
I'll make a motion, we don't.
Well, it's,
What do we, okay.
I never read a motion on table, I don't remember all the stuff, but yeah, I think, yeah, so move.
Yeah.
The amount written, second.
What,
We move motion second, need a second,
For a second.
second.
okay, what are we voting on again?
So this is a total budget
Yeah.
above and beyond what the state requires.
Right, so just what you said, since we turned down the special ed, then logically we cannot approve this.
Does that make sense to me?
Then you're making no sense.
Yeah.
So we have to turn this down because we,
That's the way I read it,
Yeah.
do what you want.
Yeah.
All in favor? The amount as written?
In favor of the amount as written?
Yes.
Or
We have to vote
not
in favor first.
Oh.
And all opposed?
There we go.
I'm
Well,
trying
the
to
motion
turn
was
it
to
here.
not approve,
Right.
so.
I think we have to have a motion to,
That's what you're boss.
I'm not,
And can I break in just for a second?
Yeah.
Article 12,
yes.
well, just did, I missed who moved in second on that one.
We should Article 13.
Yeah, we just did the one
Okay,
before. I
12, I
missed.
believe that was you, correct?
Yes.
Yes. And second, I'm gonna second it.
Okay, you are just,
No problem, we were
Yeah.
All right, so that takes care of the school budget. Moving on to town budget.
I'll wait for
You gotta-
14 to this one?
Yeah.
Article 14, so town transfer the balance of main funds from the Lakeville Central Schools unassigned fund balance.
Right.
As-
No, you skipped 14.
14, oh, sorry, 16.
His turn.
Jeez. Okay.
Thank you.
Shall the town of Lincolnville authorize the school committee to expend $5,228,990.40 for the fiscal year beginning in July 1st, 2024, and in June 3rd, 2025, for the town's contribution to the total cost of funding public education from pre-K to grade 8, as described in the Central Programs and Services Funding Act, non-state funded school construction projects, additional local funds for school purposes under the Maine Revised Statutes, Title 20A, Section 15690, unexpended balances, tuition receipts, state subsidy, and other receipts for the support of schools.
It's the total budget again.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it says we
everything
have to-
added
we
in,
have to-
so it's gonna be the same, so,
yeah,
I make a motion that we do not recommend $5,228,999.40.
Yeah, second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion, I think just vote. So all in favor of not approving that amount?
Not
in favor of not approving.
Not approving that amount,
Oh, Lord.
I think you have to.
well, this is, yes.
No,
Hey, you need to speak up, because we've not done this kind of thing before. We're kind of uncharted territory.
We're not in uncharted territory, correct. I would suspect that maybe the motion should be that you recommend a no vote.
Recommended no vote, yes.
That's what I voted on.
And that's what you do.
recommend.
Oh, I see, so yes vote, yes, Ray recommended, yeah. So,
I would recommend a no vote on the $5,228,999.40 US.
I'll second that. Second, you second? All right. All in favor?
Of a no vote.
Of a no vote?
Voting no, yeah, yes, no. What he said.
Now, going to Article 15. In addition to amounts approved in the preceding articles, shall the school committee authorize to expend sums and received from federal, state grants and programs or other sources in the fiscal years for school purposes, provided such grants, programs, or other sources do not require the expenditure of other funds not previously appropriated.
That's a tricky article.
So basically, it's just saying if we get grants that are not connected to the budget, can they spend them? Is that correct?
Yes.
My question would be, should we do a discussion for a motion before we discuss, or?
Well, I think we make a motion first, then we discuss it.
I make a motion, we accept it.
Second that.
My question would be in the wording of the article, in addition to the amounts approved, where we rejected the overall budget, did we approve anything, or?
Well, we're not really approving anything, that's
Okay.
the article, so whatever gets approved in the
This isn't
town
gonna
meeting.
cost me anything, right? I approve, yeah.
All in favor? The yes vote. Article 16, shall the town transfer the balance of remaining funds from the Lincoln Central Schools unassigned fund balance as determined in the FY fiscal year 23 audit to Lincoln Central Schools Facility Reserve Fund to be expended by vote of the school committee. School committee votes a yes vote. So that's extra money left over to be added to. So clarify, Kate?
Yep, that's exactly what it is.
Okay.
It's actually been this way since I started. I don't-
Yeah, it's been there for a long time, yeah.
It's just,
I think that's probably, yeah, well, the budget was sometimes strange, but yeah. Let's, I propose we vote yes. For a second? Second, discussion.
Discussion, so it says depending on the FY 23 audit, is this the audit that hasn't been happening? I guess that would be my question.
Yes.
How do we know what to transfer if we don't have an audit? Do we even know what that is? That would be my question.
We're gonna have an audit.
yes, we-
The question is, when will the audit be complete?
Yeah.
And when will that number be known?
And is that supposed to happen every year?
Yes, we're
Yes.
required, both the school itself is required to have an annual audit by an independent party. And then the schools actually feeds the towns because in essence, the school's a department of the town, with the pre-K to 8 schools, department of the town. And the town is required by statute to have an audit as well.
So my question would be, just because I haven't dealt with this before, if there's no audit, the school just don't arbitrarily transfer funds, and if there is an audit, they transfer what the audit says is additional.
We would, if this article were approved by the voters, when the audit is complete, if there is monies left in unassigned fund balance, in other words, they didn't spend all the money that was provided to them this year, we would make an internal transfer into the school's facility reserve fund. If the audit reveals that they have no money left over, then we would transfer no money.
I'm satisfied.
All right. So vote, proposal to vote yes, yeah, you have a question?
Yeah, I just, listening to this whole process I have to admit, I'm confused. There seems to be a disconnection in that there is a great deal of opposition to this budget among people in this room, and most likely, certainly among all of the voting people in the town.
Yeah.
We have, the budget committee has just gone through this. We've approved pretty much, with some small exceptions, we've approved, the vast majority of this budget. And, certainly attending the school hearings, with the school board and, all of the budget, they've made great arguments for every penny in the budget, so there's certainly a huge amount of validity to every cent of the budget, but, nonetheless, if you're gonna decrease the expected tax rate of 19%, it's gone down to probably 18.5%, based on the decisions the budget committee has made just now.
Well, no, our recommendations are.
Yeah, the recommendations,
Yeah.
so, yeah, which aren't in place, so, I don't see where things are gonna get cut, based on what's happening tonight.
And I think, that's a really valid point. And I think it's really interesting, because obviously we have people here who have opinions, so I don't know, kind of, it goes to town, they'll decide at the town meeting what they want to approve. I think that some of what we did tonight is sort of shine, I think, some issues in there. But you're right, the majority of this budget, what I can see, what I've seen for years, is not really negotiable unless you want to strip it down to get rid of field trips, get rid of athletics, get rid of, all the electives you don't have to have.
Yeah.
That's to really get the money out.
Yeah.
But if you want to keep a school that is, a sought after school that has really good outcomes, yeah, most of the stuff is kind of in there, it's not a lot you take out.
Yeah.
I mean, that's my opinion solely.
Yeah.
And I think ultimately it's gonna go to the townspeople to see what they think. And, I think it also, speaks to why it's so important that people, people are part of the budget system from the very beginning, watching on Zoom, wherever we do, municipal as well. The school meetings, the select board meetings are always televised, correct, or Zoomed, as are ours. And I think it's really important. I mean, one of the things I found us when I started serving the budget committee when I was written in like 17, 18 years ago, was it's an amazing way to kind of see where all the money's going. And if you look at both the school budget as well as the municipal budget, I really don't see a lot of fat. I see things that we say, oh, I can't really do that, but I don't see a lot of, what do you think? Maybe occasionally, but that's been very rare in my time serving. I've seen that from either the school board or from the select board. I think people are really aware that we are dealing with taxpayer dollars here. We're dealing with our taxpayer dollars of all residents of this town and paying taxes here, and it's always a tough decision. And I really appreciate all the discussion that we've had, and I'm sure it's not over yet. But I do want to finish up with school, but we have not voted on it yesterday, have we?
We haven't voted on 16 yet.
So we have a motion to transfer the balance of remaining funds when the audit does happen, which I'm sure is going to happen. That we transfer that back as we've done for years. So any further discussion on that issue? All right, all in favor of a yes vote? And that'll conclude the school budget portion of our meeting. You guys ready to plow on through the municipal budget? What's that?
You think they had it?
Look at you, Gerd.
Right on.
Thanks for serving, everybody.
Cheers. All right. So I guess we're starting with Article 5. Want to get that part of it?
This slide.
Do you want me to give you any pre-breakfast, or do you want to go home earlier?
I mean, I don't know, we've heard from you, David.
No, I don't mean about the budget.
Oh.
Maybe like why you're starting with Article 5.
Please, yes, do that, yes.
Just so everybody knows, on June 13th, which is a Thursday at 6 o'clock in the school, the municipal warrant will be considered. The first couple of articles, 1 through 4, are voted on by secret ballot on Tuesday. That's why 1 through 3, secret ballot on Tuesday. 4 is the carry forward of monies, which we don't get a recommendation on. That's why this starts with Article 5, in case you're wondering. And it goes on beyond Article 16, but we don't require budget committee recommendations on alewives and whatever else. So, town charter says budget committee recommendations on the appropriation of money, so. I won't say anything.
Thank you, Dave. All right. So we're gonna start with Article 5, see what sum the town will vote to raise and appropriate for municipal administration and finance. Your select board recommendation, and if you look in your book, have that in front of you. I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion that the budget committee approves Article 5
As written.
as written.
Perfect. Second. Any discussion on administration and finance? Seeing none, all in favor? Okay, moving on. Article 6, see what sum the town will vote to raise and appropriate for municipal protection. Total, that's our animal control, our fire department, and our other, our other. Entertain a motion?
I make a motion that we approve Article 6 as written.
Second.
Second, discussion on protection. We like our fire guys in this town. All right, all in favor? Article 7, see what some town will vote to raise or appropriate for municipal town office building.
Can save on a couple of tree removal, maybe.
Probably not.
We discussed this in.
Yeah, we don't mind.
So I make a motion that we approve Article 7 as written.
Second? Discussion? All in favor? Article 8, to see what some town will vote to raise and appropriate for municipal contingency. Entertained motion?
Yeah, I move to approve Article 8 for $10,000.
Perfect. I'll second that. All in favor? Article 9, to see what some town.
I'm at a no. You're at a no, okay, I'm at a no.
Oh, the last one, now?
Yeah, sorry.
Oh,
Okay,
right.
no, that's all right.
Just want to make sure I didn't.
I scratched my head, but I was at a no.
Okay.
See what town, some of the town will vote to raise and appropriate municipal CEO and assessing. Building enforcement.
Thank you. In my word, that means something different.
Enforcement. I'll entertain a motion.
A motion to approve Article 9 as written.
Okay,
Second.
second. Discussion Article 9. Seeing none, all in favor? All right. Article 10. See what some town will vote to raise and appropriate for municipal public works. Highways and bridges, transfer station, choice for that one. Entertain a motion?
I move to approve Article 10 for $1,522,104.
Second.
Second. Any discussion on that one? Seeing none, all in favor? Excellent. Article 11, to see what sum the town will vote to raise and appropriate for municipal boards and committees. Okay, motion?
Make a motion that we accept Article 11 as written.
Second.
Second. All in favor? No discussion?
I have the discussion points. Is this pertain to funds that would be allocated to the Comprehensive Plan Committee?
Yes.
I'm on that committee, I think I've mentioned that in the past, so just to be transparent. So we had requested, the comprehensive plan, to rewrite it is a pretty big undertaking. It's a 200-page document or so. It hasn't been done in, like 20 years or 17 years, I think. And, in order, and there's basically, 5 slobs like me working on it, to rewrite it. So we are not professional writers. We don't have professional, ways to make graphs and, do a really professional presentation. So if the town would like this document to be highly professional looking, we're gonna, the 5 people on the committee who are, doing their best job to produce a new document, they're gonna need some assistance, and I'm not sure if, I think there was $60,000 was spent 17 years ago or something like that. I could be wrong, but there was some pretty large sum that was, paid to a professional organization. And I know that we weren't requesting that much, but we were requesting more than $10,000 to, for help with this. Now, I don't know how important it is, my understanding is that theoretically it is highly important, but if it's not gonna be of any, significant use in terms of procuring, state funding in the future, and, it doesn't hold any gravitas, of that nature, then, I agree, we probably don't even need to spend $10,000 on it. But if it is something that will have, that will potentially benefit the town, for the next 15 years, in terms of, procuring money for, from the state, for instance, I don't know the answer to that, I'm kind of new at this, so, but I think, I just want to make that point that, the $10,000 figure is probably not going to be adequate to put together a really polished, professional, final version. So if that's what people, people desire that or don't desire it, that should be, that should just be taken into consideration.
So I guess one option is you could propose a higher amount than that.
Yeah, okay, then I
do a new motion.
Yeah, I would make a motion to put forth a larger dollar figure. Do I have to give you that dollar figure too?
Throw something out there.
Got it. Well, Mr. Kinney, at the last meeting, as I recall, suggested $30,000. And, and that was and maybe, I'm sorry if I'm misquoting you, but, and I think the intention, as I recall, after that figure was suggested, was that, it's better to have more in line, even if it turns out we don't need that amount. But if we need $20,000, for instance, then that money, I guess, would go to contingency or whatever you call it. So anyway, so I would say anything above 10,000 would be.
So make a motion for 30,000.
Okay, I make a motion for 30,000.
Okay, that's appropriate.
Okay.
And I'll second that.
For that line item?
To increase that to increase it by 20,000 for that line item would be.
Yes.
To reflect the 30,000 for the comprehensive plan review rather than 10,000 select board recommends.
Yes.
So I don't know, that total amount would be
41,862.
41,862.
You're adding 20,000.
Yeah, yep, that's right. So 41,862.
Okay, thank you.
There's a question.
And I'll second that, yes.
If I could, Lady Dunn, townsperson, and I also happen to be chair of the select board. If I may just offer the discussion that the select board had, the organization that we're working with and that the comprehensive plan review committee will be working with is currently doing the professional, shiny consultation work for other towns on their comprehensive plans. And our understanding is that can happen for less than $10,000, which is why we didn't see the need to have the additional funds. Other comprehensive plans are, the entire thing is being written by this organization for $20,000.
Is this Midcoast Council of Governments?
Correct.
Okay.
So we didn't see the need to ask the taxpayers for that much additional funding if what we're looking at is going to be, in fact, less than 10,000. So we felt that the 10,000 was a fair amount.
So what I'm hearing is that, comprehensive plan is not completely agreeing with the select board in this area. And the idea, of course, any money that's not spent, that's just worth that, if we're not spending it, we're gonna spend it. But if we have more, if we needed it. The motion for the 48,862 is on the table right now. This sort of illustrates the same thing we did with the school budget. And again, I'm not speaking for anybody else, my thought on this is somewhere where you know, there is some discussion, the comprehensive plan review team disagrees with select board recommendation. This is a place for us to throw in a different number to say, basically highlight for the town, hey, look, here's something where the select board and the budget committee don't recommend the same amount. That's just my thought on something like this. So, any further discussion on this one?
Is this is, I'm gonna say the wrong thing, heart on hand,
No, it's not heart and soul, is it?
heart and soul, that has,
It's not heart and soul.
no? Okay, thank you.
That's separate,
Yeah.
grant.
Separate.
This is
There
what
was some
we discussed a few
discussion-
meetings ago.
There was some discussion that some money that was granted already to Heart and Soul, if it was not used, it could be rolled over
Yes, that's what
into
I'm thinking
this.
of, but it wasn't
And I
this.
haven't heard the outcome of whether, I think there was some question of the legality of doing that of some sort, and I haven't heard any outcome of that. And also, Chairwoman, could you tell me, so is the company you're referring to that is being used by Appleton and Hope, I think you said, are they actually under contract right now with us?
Searsmont. Yeah, we're actually members of the Mid-Coast Council of Governments. And as such, we are.
We have access to their,
Correct,
to using them.
correct. And
Okay.
your committee is already in conversation with.
Okay. So, okay, thank you.
All right. Well, I say we vote on the amount, the 41,862. And if this doesn't pass, we go back to the original motion, the amended motion. All in favor? 2, all right, all opposed? So go back to the original proposal of 21,862. Any further discussion on that amount?
No.
All right, seeing none. All in favor? Okay, passes. Article 12, to see what sum the town will vote to raise and appropriate for municipal support. I will entertain a motion.
I move to approve Article 12 for $30,730.
Second, all right, perfect. Any discussion of that amount?
This is where we're talking about the historical society and the cemetery situation, correct?
Cemetery, the LIA, ballot clerks, yeah. Library.
Mhm. So I know when we talked about this originally, there was a lot of discussion in regards to the amount that was being allocated for cemetery work based on the amount they received this year
Mm-hmm.
after lobbying at the town meeting.
Yep.
I still have concerns with that.
Okay.
Because it sounded like there was still significant amount of money left over
Right.
that hadn't been spent because he wasn't able, based on our crummy weather last year,
Get stuff done.
to care for that. So, the money should still be there.
When we had him in here though, he said that the $8,000 was basically upkeep on what they had. Gasoline, supplies, stuff like that. So, I have to go home with those, so.
So, any further discussion? Okay, all in favor? Opposed? All right. Moving on to Article 13. See what sum the town will vote, raise and appropriate for the capital improvement program. I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion that we approve Article 13 as written.
Second.
Second.
Discussion?
My only concern is 150,000 gonna be enough for the roads after the weather.
All serious questions. I'm glad we've paid to keep our roads as well as we have, like the ones that we are in control of over the years.
Yeah.
I think I've heard many times about how important it is to stay on top of those things, otherwise you end up with a lot more problems down the road and down the right way. Can't talk anymore. All right, all in favor? All right, yes. Article 14, to see what sum the town will vote to raise and appropriate for debt service.
I do like that number compared to last year. So I make a motion that we approve Article 14 as written.
I'll second that. All right, second. Discussion, pair debts. All in favor? Provider agencies, you have already done. And Article 16, to see what sum the town will vote to appropriate for revenues and unassigned fund balance to reduce property tax assessment for 24-25 fiscal year. Any motion on that one?
Yeah, I move to approve Article 16 for $1,804,026.
Second.
Second. Discussion?
Just if you could remind me what the unassigned fund balance is?
I'd be happy to. At the end of the fiscal year, if we haven't expended all our money and the voters haven't chosen to carry it forward for another purpose, it rolls into unassigned fund balance. In addition to that, we have unbudgeted revenues that come in during the course of the year, which the select board can't expend without voter approval. Those go into unassigned fund balance. And if we have monies in the bank and choose to put forward some to reduce property taxes.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that. I like that a lot. All right.
Who made the motion for this one? Do we?
Yeah.
Jared and then
Sure. I will.
Sam, second. Yep, all right. All in favor? Okay. That looks like that sums up our business for tonight. And we don't need to meet again, except for our attendance at the school town meeting and the municipal town meeting. So May 15th, correct, for the school?
May 16th.
16th. 8/16.
6 o'clock. Ball's gone.
It's the second Tuesday of last week.
I'll make sure he makes it.
Just get in the car, Ed.
I'm sorry, to clarify, it's at the school. I have a legit question. At the school?
Yes. In the cafeteria.
Thank you.
Ball's gone.
I wouldn't have known that. Good,
You're learning things.
I am.
All right, I will entertain the motion to adjourn.
I would make a motion that we adjourn.
Second. All in favor?
Don't you say no.
Just have to go home with you.
Good dog.
Good point.
Good dog.
I know, she is.
He's really good.
She sits on my lap for 9 hours when I drive up from Washington DC.
Wake up.